Well, hello from a very hot and windy Lanzarote. I will give you a weather update a little bit later on in this video, but first I need to talk about the computer issues that are going on around the world. Now, I'm going to make the point here that I'm recording this on Friday, so for the latest information, and if you're travelling imminently, please go to the brief news page on lanzaroteinformation.co.uk, and I'll keep that updated with everything as we learn about it. But you'll know by now that Microsoft and a company called CrowdStrike have had major IT issues that have affected airlines and all kinds of industries all around the world over the last few hours or so. The latest position, and I need to reiterate this is on Friday here in Lanzarote, is that things are not too bad at all. I'm told by AENA that the check-in system is the only system that isn't functioning at Aeropuerto Cesar Manrique. And that's causing delays, but they're not massive. In their words, that it's taking much longer to check people in because they're doing it manually, but the system is working and aircraft are getting off okay. So that's the latest that we've got, and as I say, stay with brief news on lanzaroteinformation.co.uk, and I will keep that updated as things change over the next few days. Hopefully this will all be sorted out very quickly. An interesting story this week. It's 200 years since the last volcanic eruption in Lanzarote, and that took place in July 1824. And I mean, everyone knows about the big 6-year-long eruptions that took place in Timanfaya, but this is a different series of eruptions that took place almost 100 years later, as I say, in 1824. And it all started on July the 30th, so in a couple of weeks' time from now, when the volcano at Tau erupted. That shot lava into the air, it shot volcanic ash into the air. People in the nearby villages fled, nobody was killed, but they didn't really know where to go. That then created a 6-kilometre long river of lava in that area, and you can see it now obviously today. Then that kind of settled down and died down, but then 13 kilometres away in Timanfaya, another volcano erupted in September of that year, of 1824. And then shortly after that, 2 or 3 weeks after that, on the same line, so there's obviously a fault line under there, the volcano at Tinguaton erupted, and that created the mountain of Tinguaton that we know now. Apparently that was flat land until 1824. And then again, that had all died down by October, and that was the last eruption that we had on Lanzarote. I said I'd talk about the weather here. It's you can see it's windy, by the way. The trees are moving behind me over my shoulder there. It is blowing quite hard at the moment, but it's also very hot. AEMET, the weather authority here, have issued a high temperature warning for today, saying temperatures of around 34 are going to be expected, and that will be rising tomorrow to 36 degrees. The wind at the moment is a bit odd. It's blowing a westerly, which is very unusual here, due west, and it's quite strong and blowy, and it's coming in from behind me, which I find very disconcerting because I'm used to the wind where I'm sitting at the moment blowing fairly steadily into my face. But it's going to be a very hot weekend. I think there's a good chance of a kalima if that wind switches round a little bit more, because that will bring Saharan sand across to the island. But if you come into the island, it's super beach weather and has been all week this week. Now, Jet2, who are now the largest British tour operator, have added around 25,000 seats to their winter 24-25 programme, and they've added 2 additional flights coming to Lanzarote from Manchester. Those 25,000 seats, by the way, are spread across the Canaries, so they have flights to Gran Canaria and Tenerife as well. But they've upped their winter programme, and I'm guessing they're only doing that because they're very heavily booked and they need to put more aircraft on and contract more hotel places for their package holidays as well. Regular visitors will know that the road at Los Hervidores, which is the road that runs to El Golfo from sort of Playa Blanca-ish, has been closed for nearly 4 years now by a sinkhole that occurred due to wave action on the side of the road. It's taken far too long to sort this out. There has been a little bit of progress recently in that a project has now been approved, and that involves almost turning it into a flyover. So they're going to drill big pillars of concrete into the side of the road there and create a kind of bridge for the road to go over that area. The bad news is it's not going to go to tender until September, and the work is unlikely to be started until early next year. I hope they crack on with that because it's a fabulous road to drive or ride on, and obviously the area is stunning to go and look at. So fingers crossed that that goes through a bit quicker than is currently being planned. Now, we had another major water issue on the island. On Wednesday, the water went down on almost half of Lanzarote, and that continued until Thursday morning. The problem this time is that another part of the desalination plant went down, and Lanzarote has 4 sections to the desalination plant, which was built in the 1960s and is located at Puerto Neos in Arrecife. They are imaginatively named Lanzarote 1, Lanzarote 2, Lanzarote 3 and Lanzarote 4. Now, the problem we had just over a year ago is that the section called Lanzarote 4 basically died and took out about 25% of the island's water supply. And ever since then, we've had water issues. They largely don't affect the resorts. They affect rural areas like Aria and Tinajo and places off the beaten track. And it's really quite badly affected the farmers here who've had very little agricultural water for more than a year. That was slightly mitigated by the arrival of a portable desalination plant, which kind of upped the output a little bit. But what happened on Wednesday is that Lanzarote 3 went down, which again took another 25% of our water supply out. They fixed it, thank goodness, but really we're heading towards a major problem with water here. And one of my frustrations is that what I hear from the politicians is a lot of talk but no detail, and what I would like to be hearing is this is what we're going to do about it, this is how much it's going to cost, and it will be done by XYZ date. That isn't happening, but as soon as I do hear that, I will let you know and keep you all informed about it. There was a nice story this week about a number of teams on the island from Emilan, the fire service and the police department being trained on some new equipment that the Cabildo have acquired. And this is equipment to help refloat whales and dolphins that end up beached in Lanzarote. Now, across the Canaries, about 50 animals get beached throughout the course of a typical year, and you can imagine how difficult it is to try and get one of these animals out into deep water. And the Cabildo have purchased a whole range of equipment from a specialist company, which will enable them A, to keep the animals rehydrated while they're sorting them out, but B, they have a kind of floating pontoon stretcher thing that they get them onto, and then they can walk them out into deep enough water so that they can get going again and get back to their lives. So I thought it was a nice story, and the guys from the teams and the ladies from the teams were all being trained on the beach at Playa del Reducto the other day with plastic blow-up dolphins, which looked quite funny, but actually they were understanding the process using those plastic blow-up dolphins. So hopefully, well, I was going to say hopefully they'll be in action soon, but let's hope they're not in action soon, and that we don't have too many of these beautiful animals coming ashore, but at least we'll have the opportunity to get them back into their natural habitat if it does happen in the near future. Are you a fan of teleclubs, or sociedades as they're called? The Sociedad is a staple of Spain and has been since Franco's time, and in fact it was his idea to create these places where villagers throughout Spain could get together. The reason they're called teleclubs, and many locals still call them teleclubs, is because they were the first places to have televisions in Spain, and everyone used to go there in the evening to watch the television together with a drink and a bite to eat, and then head home afterwards. Well, the one at Conil has just reopened. That's been shut for a couple of years. It's had a pretty major refurbishment, which was paid for by the TS Ayuntamiento. They've appointed a new couple to run it. They have a 10-year concession to do so, and they're now open and off and running. So when we get a chance, we'll go and check it out and see what it's like, but you may want to do that as well. They are, teleclubs, sociedades are generally just fantastic value for money and really nice convivial places to go and visit. I'd just like to say thank you for watching these videos that we're producing weekly now. The success of them, if that's the right word, has been way off the scale of what I was hoping for or expected. So we're really grateful for all of you subscribing to our channel, hitting the notification bell, liking, commenting and whatever else. So thank you so much. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And that will encourage us to keep producing these every week and keeping you up to date on the Lanzarote news. Let's talk about tourism now. We had the first big tourist wave of the summer last Saturday. 284 flights came in, and Saturday has now become the busiest day of the week at Cesar Manrique Airport. It used to be a Thursday for those of you who go back a few years here, but now Saturday is the busiest day. And we had the figures for the first half of the year, and we had 1.7 million tourists visit the island in the first 6 months of 2024. So if that's repeated in the second half, that will put us on for a historic level of 3.4 million. It seems that despite the protests and the Cabildo saying they're looking to reduce the number of tourists coming to Lanzarote to perhaps below 3 million, we seem to be going the other way. And you know, the news I talked about a little bit earlier, Jet2 increasing the number of seats for next winter and so on, all contributes to this. So somebody's going to have a think again, either about building the infrastructure here to support that number of people, or finding a way to reduce it. And I don't envy them that job, because it's a pretty tough task. People come to the island, they love it, they fall in love, they come back, and that just rinses and repeats, and the numbers just grow and grow and grow. The Canary Islands has one of the fastest growing GDPs in Spain. Last year we grew our GDP by 4%. The big finance bodies in Madrid have predicted that the Canaries will grow by 3.2% this year. So fiscally things are looking pretty good for the islands at the moment, and I think it's very important that this growth, this additional money, this additional income, which comes through taxation and everything else, is ploughed back into building that infrastructure we talked about in the last segment. The dock expansion at Puerto Neos in Arrecife has now been finished. The area on which ships can dock has been increased by 150 metres. This is the commercial dock we're talking about now, by the way, which is where a lot of the cargo to the island comes in, as opposed to the cruise docks. And it's also the area where the ferries come in, and we have ferries going from there to Gran Canaria and also to the mainland of Spain, to Huelva and Cadiz. That section's now been increased, and it means that 2 ferries can come in at any one time now, whereas previously one ferry would have to wait for another to go out. And we have 2 lines that go from there, Armas and Fred Olsen. So those ships will be able to operate with a bit more flexibility going forward in the future. Additionally to that, there is work now going on 2 new cruise terminals, and that's underway already, and it's hoped that they will be finished in the early part of 2025. It seems like ages ago now, but it was only last weekend where Spain triumphed in the Euro final against England, and around 25,000 people watched that on the giant screen on the beach in Playa del Reducto. And you can imagine it was mayhem afterwards, with people singing, dancing, laughing, tooting the horns of their cars and so on. What I did think was very touching was that the Arrecife Gran Hotel, which is right in front of where the big screen was they were all watching on was bathed in the colours of the Spanish flag that evening. So there's a palpable sense of joy and pride and everything else at Spain now becoming the first nation to win that trophy 4 times. And finally, I'm going to talk briefly about the wine harvest. The wine harvest has kind of started here in that the Syrah grapes are being picked because they are ready. The Malvasia grapes, which form the bulk of the produce here in Lanzarote, the Malvasia volcanica, will be harvested in the next few days, or the harvest of them will start in the next few days. What what wineries do at this time of year is they tour the fields and get an understanding for what they think the yield is going to be. And the bad news is their projection is that it's going to be quite poor this year. They are forecasting it will be around the 2 million kilo mark, and that compares to 3.2 million last year. The upside is quite often when the yield is relatively low, the quality of the wine tends to be quite high. So we might have some great 24 whites from Lanzarote to look forward to, but there won't be many around. And any of you who were here a couple of years ago will remember that after a poor harvest, a lot of the restaurants ran out of local Lanzarote wines. And I suspect that's going to happen again during the course of this winter and into the early part of 2025. So if you enjoy your Lanzarote wine, get some stocks in as soon as it hits the shelves, I would recommend, and we'll certainly be doing that too. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. As I mentioned before, we really appreciate you watching these videos and enjoying them with us. If you have any questions or stuff you'd like us to cover, just put a comment in below. I read every single one of them, and I will always endeavour to answer your questions or queries. And we're also very interested to hear your feedback on whether you're enjoying it or what kind of stuff you would enjoy more. Have a great week. Bye for now, everyone.